Sunday, March 12th, 1944. Dear Kitty, I can't seem to sit still lately. I run upstairs and down and then back again. I love talking to Peter, but I'm always afraid of being a nuisance. He has told me a bit about the past, about his parents, and about himself. It's not half enough, though, and I ask myself why is it that I always long for more. He used to think I was unbearable, and I returned the compliment. Now I have changed my opinion. Has he changed his too? I think so. Still, it doesn't necessarily mean that we shall become great friends, although, as far as I am concerned, it would make the time here much more bearable. But still, I won't get myself upset about it. I see quite a lot of him, and there's no need to make you unhappy about it too, Kitty, just because I feel so miserable. On Saturday afternoon I felt in such a whirl after hearing a whole lot of sad news, that I went and lay on my divan for a sleep. I only wanted to sleep to stop myself thinking. I slept till 4 o'clock. Then I had to go into the living room. I found it difficult to answer all Mummy's questions and think of some little excuse to tell Daddy as an explanation for my long sleep. I resorted to a headache, which wasn't a lie, as I had one, but inside. Ordinary people, ordinary girls, teenagers like myself, will think I'm a bit cracked with all my self-pity. Yes, that's what it is, but I pour out my heart to you. Then for the rest of the day I'm imprudent and gay and self-confident as I can be in order to avoid questions and getting on my own nerves. Margot is very sweet and would like me to trust her, but still I can't tell her everything. She's a darling. She's good and pretty, but she lacks the nonchalance for conducting deep discussions. She takes me so seriously, much too seriously, and then thinks about her queer little sister for a long time afterwards, looks searchingly at me, at every word I say, and keeps on thinking, is this just a joke, or does she really mean it? I think that's because we are together the whole day long, and that if I trusted someone completely, then I shouldn't want them hanging around me all the time. When shall I finally entangle my thoughts? When shall I find peace and rest within myself again? Yours, Anne. Tuesday, March 14, 1944. Dear Kitty, perhaps it'd be entertaining for you, though not in the least for me, to hear what we are going to eat today. As the charwoman is at work downstairs, I'm sitting on the Van Dam's table at the moment. I have a handkerchief soaked in some good scent, brought before we came here, over my mouth and held against my nose. You won't gather much from this, so let's begin at the beginning. The people from whom we obtain food coupons have been caught, so we just have our 5 ration cards and no extra coupons and no fats. As both Miep and Kufius are ill, Ellie hasn't time to do any shopping, so the atmosphere is dreary and dejected, and so is the food. From tomorrow we shall have a scrap of fat, butter, or margarine left. We can't have fried potatoes, to save bread, for breakfast any longer, so we have porridge instead, and as Mrs. Van Dam thinks we're starving, we have bought some full cream milk under the counter. Our supper today consists of hash made from kale, which has been preserved in a barrel. Hence the precautionary measure with the handkerchief. It's incredible how kale can stink when it's a year old. The smell in the room is a mixture of bad plums, strong preservatives, and rotten eggs. Ugh, the mere thought of eating that makes me feel sick. Added to this, our potatoes are suffering from such peculiar disease that out of 2 buckets of pommes de terre, 1 whole ends up on the stove. We amuse ourselves by searching for all the different kinds of diseases, and have come to the conclusion that they range from cancer and smallpox to measles. Oh no, it's no joke to be in hiding during the 4th year of the war. If only the whole rotten business was over. Quite honestly, I wouldn't care so much about the food, if it only were more pleasant here in other ways. There's the rub. The tedious existence is beginning to make us all touchy. The following are the views of the 5 grown-ups on the present situation. Mrs. Van Dam: the job as queen of the kitchen lost its attraction a long time ago. It's dull to sit and do nothing, so I go back to my cooking again. Still, I have to complain that it's impossible to cook without any fats, and all these nasty smells make me sick. Nothing but ingratitude and rude remarks do I get in return for my services. I'm always the black sheep, always the guilty one. Moreover, according to me, very little progress is being made in the war. In the end, the Germans will still win. I'm afraid we're going to starve, and if I'm in a bad mood, I scold everyone. Mr. Van Dam: I must smoke and smoke and smoke, and then the food. The political situation and Carely's moods don't seem so bad. Carely is a darling wife. But if he hasn't anything to smoke, then nothing is right, and this is what one hears. I'm getting ill. We don't live well enough. I must have meat. Frightfully stupid person, my Carely. After this a terrific quarrel is sure to follow. Mrs. Frank: Food is not very important, but I would love a slice of rye bread now. I feel so terribly hungry. If I were Mrs. Van Dant, I would have put a stop to Mr. Van Dant's everlasting smoking a long time ago. But now I must definitely have a cigarette because my nerves are getting the better of me. The English make a lot of mistakes, but still the war is progressing. I must have a chap and be thankful I'm not in Poland. Mr. Frank. Everything's all right. I don't require anything. Take it easy. We've ample time. Give me my potatoes, and then I'll keep my mouth shut. Put some of my rations on one side for Allie. The political situation is very promising. I am extremely optimistic. Mr. Dussel. I must get my task for today. Everything must be finished in time. Political situation outstanding, and it's impossible that we'll be caught. I. Yours, Anne. Wednesday, March 15, 1944. Dear Kitty. Phew! Oh dear, oh dear. Released from the somber scenes for a moment. Today I hear nothing, but if this or that should happen, then we are going to be in difficulties. If he or she should become ill, then we'll be completely isolated. And then if infant, I expect you know the rest, at least I presume you know the secret annexers well enough by this time to be able to guess the trend of their conversations. The reason for all the ifs is that Mr. Keller has been called upon to go digging. Allie has a streaming cold, and will probably have to stay at home tomorrow. Miep hasn't fully recovered from her flu yet, and Kufi has had such bad hemorrhage of the stomach that he lost consciousness. What a tale of woe! The warehouse people are getting a free day tomorrow. Allie can stay at home, then the door will remain locked, and we shall have to be as quiet as mice so that the neighbors don't hear us. Hank is coming to visit the deserted ones at 1 o'clock, playing the role of zookeeper, as it were, for the first time in ages. He told us something about the great wide world this afternoon. You should have seen the 8 of us sitting around him. It looked exactly like a picture of grandmother telling a story. He talked 19 to the dozen to his grateful audience about food, of course, the Mepes doctor, and everything that we asked about. Doctor, he said, don't talk to me about the doctor. I rang him up this morning. Had his assistant on the phone and asked for a prescription for flu. The reply was that I could come and get the prescription any time between 8 and 9 in the morning. If you have a very bad attack of flu, the doctor comes to the telephone himself and says, put out your tongue and say, ah. I can hear all right that your throat is inflamed. I'll write out a prescription for you to order from the chemist. Goodbye. And that's that. A fine practice that, run by telephone only. But I don't want to criticize the doctors after all. A person has but 2 hands, and in these days there's an abundance of patients and very few doctors to cope with them. Still, we couldn't help laughing when Hank repeated the telephone conversation to us. I can just imagine what a doctor's waiting room must look like nowadays. One doesn't look down on panel patients anymore, but on people with minor ailments and thinks, hi, you, what are you doing here? End of the line, please. Urgent cases have priority. Yours, Anne. Thursday, March 16, 1944. Dear Kitty, the weather is lovely, superb. I can't describe it. I'm going up to the attic in a minute. Now I know why I'm so much more restless than Peter. He has his own room where he can work, dream, think, and sleep. I am shoved about from one corner to another. I hardly spend any time in my double room, and yet it's something I long for so much. That is a reason, too, why I so frequently escape to the attic. There and with you I can be myself. For a while, just a little while. Still, I don't want to moan about myself. On the contrary, I want to be brave. Thank goodness that others can't tell what my inward feelings are, except that I'm growing cooler towards Mummy daily. I'm not so affectionate to Daddy, and don't tell Margot a single thing. I'm completely closed up. Above all, I must maintain my outward reserve. No one must know the war still reigns incessantly within. War between desire and common sense. The latter has won up till now, yet the former proved to be the stronger of the two. Sometimes I fear that it will, and sometimes I long for it to be. Oh, it is so terribly difficult never to say anything to Peter, but I know that the first to begin must be he. There's so much I want to say and do. I've lived in all my dreams. It is so hard to find that yet another day has gone by and none of it comes true. Yes, Kitty, Anne is a crazy child, but I do live in crazy times and still under crazier circumstances. But still, the brightest spot of all is that at least I can write down my thoughts and feelings. Otherwise, I would be absolutely stifled. I wonder what Peter thinks about all these things. I keep hoping that I can talk about it to him one day. There must be something he has guessed about me, because he certainly can't love the outer Anne, which is the one he knows so far. How can he, who loves peace and quiet, have any liking for all the bustle and din? Can he possibly be the first and only one to have looked through my concrete armor? And will it take him long to get there? Isn't there an old saying that love often springs from pity, or that the two go hand in hand? Is that the case with me too? Because I'm often just as sorry for him as I am for myself. I really don't honestly know how to begin, and however would he be able to, when he finds talking so much more difficult than I do? If only I could write to him, then at least I would know that he would grasp what I want to say, because it's so terribly difficult to put into words. Yours, Anne. Friday, March 17, 1944. Dear Kitty, a sigh of relief has gone through the secret annex. Crayler has been exempted from digging by the court. Allie has given her nose a talking to, and strictly forbidden it to be a nuisance to her today. So everything is all right again, except that Margot and I are getting a bit tired of our parents. Don't misunderstand me. I can't get on well with Mummy at the moment, as you know. I still love Daddy just as much, and Margot loves Daddy and Mummy. But when you are as old as we are, you do want to decide just a few things for yourself. You want to be independent sometimes. If I go upstairs and I'm asked what I'm going to do, I'm not allowed salt with my food. Every evening, regularly at 8:15, Mummy asks whether I ought not to start undressing. Every book I read must be inspected. I must admit that they are not at all strict, and I'm allowed to read nearly everything, and yet we are both sick of all the remarks plus all the questioning that goes on the whole day long. Something else, especially about me, that doesn't please them. I don't feel like giving lots of kisses any more, and I think fancy nicknames are terribly affected and short. I'd really like to be rid of them for a while. Margot said last evening, I think it's awfully annoying the way they ask if you have a headache, or whether you don't feel well, if you happen to give a sigh or put your hand to your head. It's a great blow to us both, suddenly to realize how little remains of the confidence and harmony that we used to have at home. And it's largely due to the fact that we're all skew with here. By this I mean that we are treated as children over outward things, and we are much older than most girls of our age inwardly. Although I'm only 14, I know quite well what I want. I know who is right and who is wrong. I have my opinions, my own ideas and principles, and although it may sound pretty mad from an adolescent, I feel more of a person than a child. I feel quite independent of anyone. I know that I can discuss things and argue better than Mummy. I know I'm not so prejudiced. I don't exaggerate so much. I am more precise and adroit, and because of this, you may laugh, I feel superior to her over a great many things. If I love anyone above all, I must have admiration for them, admiration and respect. Everything would be all right if only I had Peter, for I do admire him in many ways. He is such a nice, good-looking boy. Yours, Anne.